Running, running, and running, running, and running, running. Running, running, and running, running, and running, running, running. Who sings that? Oh, that's someone I should not be singing.
I have no idea.
That list is so freaking long.
I don't even know what song you're singing, but I like it.
Anyway, wait, I didn't show you my new phone case.
No.
You guys want to see it?
Okay. That's precious. For our listeners, it's a spaceship abducting, what is it? A cow?
A cow.
Naturally.
I'm like, why a cow? I mean, they are cute.
They are super conscious beings.
Aren't they all? Which gets us into part of our topic. But
Except
first,
the white man. Just kidding. Just kidding.
But first, freak check.
How
you doing?
You know what? It's so interesting that we chose this topic to follow last week's episode. If you haven't heard it, highly recommend.
10 out of 10.
I'm here. I'm present. I feel really good post-ovulation right now. So I feel amazing. Next week, not so much probably. But I'm good. I'm clear. I'm ready to go.
Clean, clear, and under control.
Of my own sovereign divinity.
All of these early 2000 commercials are coming in strong for me lately. But I'm happy you're feeling clear and clean and under control. My acne is not because I got my period.
Oh my God. Period blood is like the most nutrient cell dense substance in our planet. And I just want to like acknowledge that you are
creating that with my own body. Pay for it.
Wow. Pay for it.
All right. Yeah. I just feel like I feel good. I feel good. I feel a little like squirrely. Yeah. So I'm going to ride your coattails today, lady.
I love it. I love it. Well, okay. You may or may not know hormones affect everything from our bodies to sports to gender identity. It's a hot topic right now that I don't feel like has really been like synthesized down to one word, which is hormones. And it just got me thinking after hearing, some of my friends have to, debate their relatives about gender in sports and then transgender and like all of these topics where I'm just like, oh, what? We don't understand our own hormones. So we're just going to like cast all this judgment.
Shock that we don't understand our own hormones.
Even just the fact that like being on the birth control pill at such a young age and then like not understanding what it means to ovulate and even just like being able to like test out, like learning, okay, let's praise the apps that have educated us and the cycle trackers and like Stardust. This episode is for you.
We love you. We're not getting paid for that. It's true love.
Yes, very much so. If you're not familiar with Stardust, it's cool. Also, they tell you like what the moon cycle is too.
I love that.
And it tells you like what kind of witch you are. So I'm a pink witch. You're a...
I can't remember.
We're
I'm
like
opposite.
synced. You can like add your friends.
Yeah.
And even if you don't have a period, like, and you love someone and want to know where they're at in their cycle.
Yeah. Oh, it saves me because Andrew gets the notifications. And he'll be like, oh, didn't it say that you're going to have no energy today? Why are you trying to do that? I'm like,
okay, I love this. It says, how are you today? Others typically report the following around this time in their cycle: calm, carbs, increased appetite, happy, and acne. I definitely am wanting some carbs right now. I'm not going to lie.
I always want carbs. So what does that say about me? Carb queen. Actually, I'm sure it has something to do with what's going on in my body that I'm always craving carbs. Carbs. It is very interesting to think about how little we know. I mean, we understand that terribly. There is or I shouldn't say very little at this point, but I should say significantly less medical research on women's bodies, but everyone has hormones. And the fact that we don't have more knowledge on it on a regular basis and have more conversation about it is crazy because it does affect everything. And everybody has hormones. So it's not even like, oh, we're not studying females. We're just not allowing us to have the knowledge of how to assist our own body in keeping us healthy and strong, because that's not what they want us to be. Hey.
Or the research or these conversations are so siloed from one another, from like BPAs and plastics to processed foods to then like glyphosate, which was found in Roundup, is probably still found in Roundup, and it's still sprayed on soy and corn. It's affecting our hormones to such a great degree. And we feel very passionate about our vessels, our temples. That was actually one of the cards we pulled to, what is it? Inner temple, devotion. I feel so devoted to protecting my body from this crap. And it's really tough because when you start to view Earth as this like toxic, plastic ridden place, like your perception of Earth, like it then feels really toxic. Like everything is out to get you.
Yes.
And that's not the intent of this episode. It's more to educate, inform, so you can make the best decisions for yourself.
Yes. And it's interesting because I was just having a conversation with my mom, my uncle, shout out Uncle Peter, I feel like she said he pretty much finished his transition to veganism, but now he's in this rabbit hole of like, oh my God, the hormones in this and she was like, it's not great. And I'm like, but you know what? It's needed at first. I know it's fearful. I know it's scary. I know it makes you feel like Earth itself and everything we eat is going to kill you, because it kind of is. But you need to be aware, because you need to be able to make those conscious choices. Because guess what? From the moment we from the moment we shoot out, we are affected. Even before we shoot out, babies are born with plastics in them
even
already.
Right now, like sperm quality is at an all-time low. Like it's not, everyone always thinks it's about the woman. I'm like, check the sperm quality.
Yeah. And something that got me in a rabbit hole, because I've been thinking a lot as well about the plastics, and Andrew and I, like, I much rather, call me gross, I much rather put my produce on the conveyor belt of the store and wash it when I get home than put it in the plastic bag that it offers me. Not only for waste, but also I don't want that plastic touching it. Thinking about how I get tofu because I'm vegan, but it's packaged in plastic, and, or the ways of how things used to be when we went to Andrew's parents' house and everything was from Pampered Chef when Andrew was younger, and it's all plastic that they've had forever and put in the dishwasher. And immediately we spent like $100 and we're like, nope, stainless steel, everything. But it gets you down this rabbit hole about how from the moment you're conceived, you don't have the choice to be healthy. And I started even researching diapers because I was thinking about period, like pads and tampons and the chemicals in that. And I was like,
and even toilet paper.
And toilet paper. Holy shit, we're putting babies in diapers all day, all night that are riddled with PFAS and chemicals and toxins that can lead to birth defects. You're literally like, so it's really crazy how there are so many ways to ingest, or, whether it be like heavy metals from deodorant, but at least if you're aware, again, not to be fearful, at least you can make those choices. Like, would I love to be wearing non-metal deodorant? Sure. Have I tried it? Yeah. Does it work for me? No. And nobody wants to sit near me when I'm not wearing regular deodorant. So I have to make that choice for myself, at least right now.
But when you eat a clean diet, you most likely don't stink.
Yeah.
Well, garlic and onions are a different thing.
Also, I guess I don't eat all that clean anyway. Lots of snackies, lots of, But anyway, everything that you not only ingest, but like Victoria was saying, the plastic, the chemicals, it's everywhere. And this episode, again, is not about fear. It's about knowledge. So that way you can make the choice.
Exactly. So what is a hormone? It is essentially chemical messengers that are produced by glands in the endocrine system. And they regulate various functions in your body from metabolism, growth, reproduction, mood, and sleep. Fuck, mood and emotions are everything. There's something called like PMDD that essentially from once you finish ovulating and in between, like basically 2 weeks of your cycle, the last 2 weeks of your cycle, until you essentially are wrapped up with your period, people who suffer from PMDD, and I can include more information down below in the description, it's hell. You are literally a completely different person. Your mood changes drastically. You're basically miserable, so irritable and everything. Like you turn into a totally different person. And the second, the other half of your cycle, the first 2 weeks, then you are essentially, well, because technically your cycle starts the day you start bleeding. I won't comment on that, but
neither will I.
Basically, the other half, you are then like repairing all these relationships you damaged because you come back and you feel like yourself. And I think so many women are suffering from this right now. I feel like I've suffered from it as well. And that's why I have to be extra cautious, extra aware, make really good decisions for myself throughout my entire cycle so I don't end up having these extreme moods. And so much of it is in our guts, and I love gut health. And I think one day let's have the person who has done my colonics for the last like 10 years come on the show and talk about gut health and just all things related to letting shit go. And yeah, but mood. And of course, sleep affects your mood. So if you're not sleeping well or you're not getting rested sleep at night, like, yeah, you're going to be an irritable bitch.
Yeah. And your metabolism and like your eating like patterns and rhythm also affect your mood, which also affects your sleep. It's just like all connected. And the common denominator is your hormones. And we can sit here, and I don't know if you do have ways for people to help regulate their hormones, but it's also a very challenging thing to create a list for, because, I can sit here through and through speaking about like the dietary part of it and say that I believe vegan is the best option by far. But I also know plenty of people based on their life cycle, their life, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Life, not cycle. I don't know. Their life and their genetics, maybe it doesn't work for them. So to give a list of how to balance your hormones could be challenging because everyone's hormone makeup is unique. However, what we can offer, at least what I would say, is pay attention. Play with one thing at a time, whether it's food, whether it's medicine, whether it's, whatever it is, like products that you're using, and recognize how changing one thing maybe affects your mood, affects your sleep, affects your metabolism. That's how you can start to pay attention to what is actively affecting your hormones.
And perhaps you keep a journal where you're just observing, like be your own little scientist and take note, like how did I sleep? What did I eat? Or you can use one of these period tracker apps, regardless of your gender. It's very fascinating because there's so many different things to enter from your mood, from what you ate to like what kind of drugs and alcohol you consumed to like cravings. And it just super fascinating. I guess this is another plug for Stardust because the graphics are cool. We're all about the aesthetic.
Yeah, we are.
So yeah, I think just be aware. And this relates so much to how do you tend to your temple? How do you keep your vessel clear so that you can experience open contact and care for yourself in a way that no doctor has probably ever taken the time to get to know you and your body. And, you know, something my mom always said growing up, and I love this, is your body, your choice.
Mm-hmm.
But damn if we don't have so many choices right now.
Yeah.
And how do we know what is the best choice?
And
For you.
Yeah. And talking about like looking at those studies or doing your research, it's not only doing the research, but where did it come from? Who paid for it? Like it is really hard nowadays to, you know, for the age of knowledge, quotes, it is really difficult to find things that are based in truth and fact and not paid off or subjective. And that's why taking your own data is your first step. And I remember, you know, when I first went vegan, and even actually I just saw a video similar coming up not too long ago about how your hormones and your overall health, both physically, mentally, and emotionally, yes, can be linked to genetics, but genetics make up about 15%. Diet and lifestyle, that's the word I was looking for, are the two main factors. Diet being the highest factor to your physical health. Lifestyle meaning like activity, right? But
lifestyles are like it's your habits and patterns.
It's your habits and patterns. It's all like
more choices.
Also, lifestyle could consist of things that you're putting on your body, not just in your body, like lotions or perfumes that are affecting your hormones as well.
All right. I'm sorry if what we're about to say creates a whole algorithm for you, but you probably have already gotten spammed with the topic of cortisol. I feel like none of us really knew what cortisol was or did, and the degree to which it like caused all of these similar symptoms for us, like a puffy face or that little pooch in your lower belly and like sleep dysregulation, like cortisol. And so I think cortisol awareness is sort of this like gateway hormone to us being like, okay, what else do we need to learn? Or what else do we need to know to better understand our bodies and how to create balance within ourselves? You know, I think we're really familiar with like serotonin, dopamine, and like love hormone, like all the happy ones, but the ones that like weigh us down, it's so exciting that we're in this time that like we're being educated about it. And cortisol, I mean, fuck, it's stress induced, really.
Yeah.
So if you live a stressful life and like can't change certain things about your life, you're probably going to remain with high cortisol levels until something changes. Like no amount of like substance is going to, and that's the thing with like any of these like supplements or vitamins or whatever it may be, vibrationally, if other changes aren't happening in your life, it's a waste of money.
Yeah. And I think also, not to say that if you have a stressful job, right? Let's say someone who really loves being a surgeon, that's like a super stressful job, right? You can't walk away from that. It's your life. But what you can do is supplement that, not with vitamins, not saying that's bad or anything, but what you need to supplement it is with stress management practices, right? So doing breathing, doing meditation, doing ways to release the cortisol, because cortisol isn't only a bad thing. It's our fight or flight mechanism. It keeps us safe. It gives us the adrenaline as well, that's needed to keep us, you know, moving throughout the day. But if it's stored, if we're not finding time to release the stress, it builds up and then creates physical, changes to the body and dis-ease. So Victoria is not saying like, oh, you're screwed if you can't change your stressful life. What we're saying is lifestyle, a piece of that is stress management.
Yeah.
Is proper sleep, which correlates with stress management. Because if you have too high levels of cortisol, you're not going to be able to sleep properly. It's going to create this whole cycle and continue down the spiral. But really, a piece of that lifestyle isn't just physical working out, it's stress management. That is how you handle your cortisol levels. Exercise being one of them as well.
Anything that takes you out of fight or flight. because you really can't receive the information and the downloads and such unless you're relaxed to a certain degree. Of course, they'll come through sometimes, but to really get tuned into your channel and into your body, like feeling your best. Oh, it's such a powerful tool.
Yeah.
All right. I can't help but bring up the topic of hormones in sports. I think there's, some huge controversy happening. And first of all, can we just take like a pause to acknowledge how hard it is for a woman who is menstruating to do like super competitive sports, even though they train for it and they're used to it, they've prepared their body for this, but like they might even be under like a certain level of stress or just they don't have their period altogether.
Yeah.
And I actually read that, it's really important for those of us who are able to bleed or are still bleeding to shed out, because that's the fastest, best way to release the parabens and the chemicals that our bodies, like, yes, our liver is processing it to a certain degree, but so is our uterus, like so is our womb. And all of that shedding is so powerful. And we've, been programmed to believe, and many of us have been programmed to believe that the blood is gross or icky and yeah, maybe to that degree where it's shedding out toxins, but it's also containing the most powerful stem cells that scientists are now finding. I mean, if you want to like live forever and like figure out ways for your organs to keep beating, like the secret sauce is in the blood. Even in a lot of the Pleiadian books I've read, they talk about the blood and like blood awareness. I'll leave it at that for right now. Maybe when we have our extraterrestrial episode, we can talk more about blood and the importance of even your blood type, how they get to our blood and what they do with our blood, and even just like fun little conspiracy theories. Like, well, we'll talk about it during that episode. But
I was like, wait, what about hormones in sports?
Testosterone's insane. Can we just like acknowledge how wild testosterone is? Testosterone is really fun in the female body to a certain degree until you start growing like chin hairs and like feel uncontrollably horny. But yeah, I feel like, and you're probably not, no one who makes these bold, really mean statements are probably listening to this. But you probably know someone who feels very strongly about women and men competing against each other and strength levels and like how it's not a fair competition. And it really plays, anything I've heard just plays into just this patriarchal superiority complex of like yesteryear. We're not operating on that consciousness level anymore, FYI. So I feel like it's so important to understand hormones, like 101. What does testosterone do in your body? Like progesterone, estrogen. There's so much fear around tofu and estrogen levels. And I'm just like,
I'm like, trust me, Andrew's the biggest soy boy I ever met. Nothing happened to him. Trust me.
And he's a lean, mean machine.
Yeah, he is. He really is. And I think it's like, speaking of like sports and, gender or, gender identity of like people competing against each other, I can understand wanting a competitive level comparatively when you're versing somebody. I get that. That's why we have like championships, right? So the best are versing the best. But it should be more to speak very broadly and generically, almost like boxing, where you're in a weight class, where it's like your size is going to determine who you verse. So you're versing someone your size.
Yeah.
So it's not me, 5'1", versing somebody like 6'4" in a complete, like, double my weight, right? So if you want to have comparison, compare in that regard of like, okay, do you have the same skill level as me? Are you in the same weight class as me? Are you in, so I have fair competition. I'm here for that. But the gender does not fucking matter. I mean, look at this past year with just women's basketball itself. I'm sorry. If you haven't been watching women's basketball, you're fucking up. And I don't even like basketball. Sorry. One of my least favorite sports. Actually, now I'm really starting to like it again. But I'm like, you're trying to tell me that just because they're a woman, they're quote unquote less than? Because I'm sorry, the scores tell otherwise.
Oh, okay. Even like watch men's soccer versus women's soccer.
Oh my God.
Especially in Portland. Oh my God.
I'm just like, I'm sorry. Women are better than everything, but that's besides fact.
But then we play into the superiority complex.
Yeah.
We serve different missions.
Yeah.
And if men understood their missions, we wouldn't even have to compare better than, worse than. It would be like, okay, we're tuned into our powers. Let's serve each other.
Yeah.
But instead, the programming of superiority has limited us into this little box. But yeah, very excited for Portland to get a WNBA team.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many tools for self-discovery. And I feel like when it comes to gender and transitioning and gender affirmation, even, like, it's so individual. And that's why it's really important before you make comments about other people's gender identity, sexual preferences, or even the way that their bodies are showing up for your viewing pleasure. Like, just step the fuck back and take a long, hard look at yourself in your mirror and see where you're at. Like, what are your hormones telling you? Like, what are the symptoms that your body is showing you that maybe you're ignoring? Because if you have time to go judging someone else, then you have time to self-reflect and tune into your own. I mean, I'm like, I wish like every judgmental man could watch this episode.
Yeah. Because really, you are exactly correct. It's mirroring something within you. If you're someone who probably isn't going to watch this, because if you're this person, you wouldn't. But if you're someone who's really bothered, like Victoria was saying, about someone's sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, that means there is something that you are resisting within yourself. And I'm not saying that that means that you're queer or that you're going to be trans, but that you're not allowing yourself to express yourself authentically. So seeing these people take power in choosing how they express themselves and show up in the world are so hurtful, quote unquote, to you. It's because you're suffering from the lack of expression. So what hormones are you suppressing, bitch?
I love that so much. And I like want to grab my heart and feel like very tender for the people that like probably can't even fully comprehend that, or they are so in denial and they're so deeply programmed. Like, it's not your fault. Like, it's not your fault that you were programmed this way, but it is your fault if you keep it going and you perpetuate it.
It's not your fault, but it is your responsibility.
Yes.
Okay. So like, yes, you were programmed. And again, we're not saying that you're secretly in the closet, but maybe you want to express your emotions more than quote unquote men are allowed to do. Maybe you don't feel enough. Maybe you feel too much, and it's just recognizing too. And, we've talked about this before, that your egg was in your mother's embryo when she was in your grandmother's womb. So your DNA, your hormone makeup, the way that your hormones express themselves in your body come through everything they experienced before you, because it was literally programmed in your DNA. So again, it's not your fault if you're expressing if you've been expressing yourself the way that you were taught or it was physically constructed in your body, but it is your responsibility to lead with compassion and be open-hearted to everyone's experience. Because talking about hormone therapy, we said before, everyone's hormone makeup is pretty unique, although there is some repetitive patterns there. But then you throw in those who are transitioning, and to make assumptions about what people need, whether it be lifestyle or diet as a whole, is crazy, because your hormones are constantly changing as you're going. Like women going through monthly cycles, we have our circadian rhythm where we have daily cycles, we have our year. Like there's so much that you're constantly changing. To put a label on someone or an expectation on yourself about how it doesn't make sense. So being able to listen to your body, like I said in the last episode, really creating the neural pathways, super highway of understanding how your hormones and your cells are trying to speak to you is so crucial. So stress management and diet and like exercise, those are your three main access points to balancing the chemicals that you are actively making and detoxing the chemicals that you are ingesting that aren't good for you.
Here's the funny little scenario that I think typically shows up, that if you are someone who perpetuates the programming of diminishing someone else, because let's be honest, this is all very fluid and complex, and we can't generalize any of it. But one thing I'll tell you, that if you keep this pattern going that diminishes yourself through putting down someone else, you are going to be presented by someone and triggered by someone. And you're going to have in that moment the opportunity to not make it about them, that you don't like them, or you don't like that they're calling you out on your shit. You have the opportunity to say, okay, let me pause and reflect on this. I don't need to keep this narrative going, because that narrative is not serving you. And the sooner you realize that, the sooner you get to experience this like expansion of consciousness and like, break free of the paradigm you've been shackled down into. Like, just wake the fuck up.
And I think some of that shackling, and again, we've talked about this before, and more specifically, I also want to just plug Dr. Kelsey, who we interviewed in the second season. We'll put her information below if you want more information on what these individual hormones do to your body.
Yes.
She's a great person to talk about the generalization of these hormones, knowing that everybody has a unique genetic makeup and hormonal makeup. But understanding that, you know, what we're ingesting, you know, we're talking about plays into our hormones, both on a physical and an energetic perspective. And, you know, we talk about, I've mentioned like veganism changed my life in a spiritual way as well, because I'm not ingesting the suffering. I'm not ingesting the programming of what our society has done to these sentient, conscious creatures that are more connected and understanding of the earth and the ways of energetics than we are. And we're just trampling all of that and feeding them hormones and feeding them pesticides and feeding them chemicals. And then you're eating that and ingesting that. So I'm not saying you have to go vegan. I'm not saying it's for everybody, but I found for myself that not only did it help with my hormone balances, did it help with my general connection to source, but it's been such an eye opener to recognize the energy signature of the food we're eating, not just meat, but all food that we're eating, and how that also affects our energetic makeup.
Okay. You know, I'm like 20 plus years lifelong vegetarian. One would argue, and I'm going to play angel's advocate right now.
Okay, love that instead of devil's advocate.
Right? Even though I'm a naughty angel. So plants are sentient, right?
Yes.
And so here's the thing. Glyphosate, which I've talked about on previous episodes, and I can't stop talking about like glyphosate awareness because it's so prevalent in soy and corn. So yeah, you're doing the right thing for your body, right? You're trying to like avoid the suffering and tune into more earthly bound substances to fuel your body. However, you're consuming potentially, if you're not aware of exactly what you're eating, this horrible chemical called glyphosate. It's a widely used herbicide. It was, I think, originally used in Roundup. Disgusting, right? And it acts as an endocrine disruptor. So it totally throws a wrench in balancing your hormones. It is so prevalent in genetically modified foods, and it's really wild how much of our food is genetically modified. But it really affects our reproductive system, thyroid dysfunction. I mean, I feel like everyone I know has thyroid issues today. But like at the same time, I think it's far worse because if you're eating animals, it's almost compounding the glyphosate and the herbicide because you're eating meat that essentially has already consumed the glyphosate.
Yep.
So it's like you're getting it like double time. So that's another way to look at it, right?
And it is crazy because I do see that, and I do think about that. And that plus, like I was saying earlier, like the plastic packaging on the tofu or the tempeh and having to like cut it with the knife. And now I'm like, oh God, all the microplastics are on the knife and now it's going to be in my food. And it makes me just like, I literally was thinking today, I was like, I would give anything to be rich enough. You listening? To be rich enough. And at first I was like, to be rich enough to stay home, to make my own tofu and make my own tempeh. And then I was like, no, I'm sorry. I want to be rich enough to have somebody make my own tofu and make my own tempeh, because honestly, it feels like you can't trust anything. And no matter how well-intended I am to eat properly, like, and listen, we're all going to grab a bag of potato chips, or maybe not all of us, but I am, and some vegan frozen chicken nuggets every now and again. But even when I'm trying to do my best most of the time, ultimately my body wishes I could be doing more, because the way that America's food system works, no, we're not saying globally, but just like every other FDA out there, is so much more on top of this shit than we are, ultimately because they want us to stay sick. So
yeah,
keeping an eye on your own body, trusting yourself, trusting the connection you have with your cells in your body is your top priority, because doctors, I'm not saying all doctors, but doctors make more money when they prescribe, and those prescriptions deal with symptoms to keep you sick longer. So that way you're a lifelong pharmaceutical client and eventually have to do these invasive surgeries, when really clean herbs, clean food, clean energy, and stress management is what's going to keep a healthy body.
Such good content, like such shadow bannable content.
Clip that. Me.
I mean, like, yes, you can support your local farmer, you can grow your own, but there are ways to advocate for better food systems. And, if I was super rich, yes, I'd want us to like have the highest quality, but I would want to feed other people. Yes. Hear that, Elon Musk?
Bitch.
Truly.
Like, just get on your damn spaceship and get out of here.
Truly. Scram. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't, but now I need to know. I just like it anyway. Scram.
Scram. Okay, I'm excited for you to witness that. And I guess I just also want to reiterate that it's only as bad as you make it out to be. So there is like, I don't know, some power in being in denial, but not really. Like, yes, you're going to educate yourself. You're going to be aware. You're going to make the conscious decisions, but you're not going to give the power in which like you're consuming something and it's coming from plastic and you're going to be like, oh my God, this is so bad for my system. And this is so, no, you're going to actually, this is when you start to really alchemize and And this, oh my God, I love doing this when I'm at restaurants and it feels like really chaotic. And I'm like, I need to tune this food to my own energy system so I'm not digesting someone else's stress.
Mm-hmm.
All I do, I'll like maybe rub my palms together, but just putting my hands over the food and saying a silent prayer to the effect of, may all who have come in contact with this food be blessed. Thank you. And just having that like short, sweet, intentional prayer over your food, it does wonders. Like it's so powerful.
And even doing it after the fact as well, right? Like it is scientifically proven that vibration, sound, chanting heals the body. So make your conscious choice, like Victoria was saying, but don't get caught up in it. And she's saying, don't be ignorant, but then go home and say, you know what? I got to clean up energetically. And that way, the next time I flush out my system in whatever capacity that looks like, it's all gone. Whatever I wasn't able to, avoid in my intakes, in my food, then I can energetically detox, as well as if you go to get colonics or other things, or herbal or juices or whatever that's going to help detox the chemicals. But it'll help with mental decline, physical decline. It's just doing the energetic work when you can't do the physical work is, just as powerful.
I was just thinking, it's how you take your power back.
Yeah.
It's how you own and utilize your power for the goodness of all. And so it is.
I was going to say, amen.
Well, we have a few treats coming up over the next few episodes. This has been like the longest season ever. So thank you for sticking with us.
Wait, hold on.
What?
Hold up.
What?
It has not been the longest season ever. We have been good. We just skipped Christmas week. It feels like the longest season ever to us.
Oh, because we didn't get a break between the last seasons.
Yeah.
Got you.
Yeah. But we've been good, okay? Give us credit. We've been good.
And you, technology, you've been good. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Technobots. Okay, anyway, continue what you were saying. Special treats.
Yeah, some of our favorite humans are going to be joining us, so.
So that's the special treat. So look forward to next week.
Yeah.
We'll be doing little one-offs with some people we love.
I feel like
I'm gonna miss you.
We're podcast swingers.
Yeah, we are. We love you. Go eat healthy. Go take care of your body because they're coming. And you want your circuit running clearly to access it.
They're here.
They're here, but they're coming. Okay, we love you. Bye.